Hello everybody, happy fall. This year, my friends and I made pumpkin fairy houses as a cozy autumn activity, and it was so much fun. I highly recommend doing it with your friends this season. So I thought I'd show you how I made my fairy doors, in case you wanted to save money and customize your doors the way you wanted them to look. I think they turned out so cute. And what you'll need is some polymer clay, and I flattened mine with a pasta roller. I also used the top of a mason jar to trace out my door shape. And then I used various clay tools to ingrain some wood texture in it. Here I am making the wood striations and not being afraid to get really deep because I plan on making molds of this later and resin casts. So you want the details to be in there pretty good. And this one was inspired by a hobbit door. I wanted something to be a little bit more whimsical, so I added some filigree details on top. Just using snakes of clay in a design that I like. And once I'm happy with how the door looks, I'm going to put it on top of another thinly rolled sheet of polymer clay, and I'm going to make some bricks to go around it as kind of the door molding. And I just took some snakes of clay and my blade, cut all the sides off to make a brick shape, and laid them down, not being too precious with it because this is supposed to look organic. And once all of them are laid out, I'm going to cut off the excess polymer clay sheet on the outside. And here I took a Scotch-Brite sponge just to add a little texture on the bricks. And I made 3 designs. I went to bake them off. And I did make molds of them using a 2-part silicone putty so that I can make resin casts. Here I am spraying the mold release so that the resin casts come out nice and easily. And it's a 1:1 ratio of both parts, very easy. The one that I got sets in about 10 minutes. And when it is set, it turns this really nice bright white. You can also incorporate dye drops or paint in there if you didn't want the color to turn out white. But if you sprayed mold release, they should come out super easy, just like this. And that way you can make multiple casts for your friends if they wanted to use some of your door designs. To painting this, I painted the base black. Probably would have been easier to dye the resin black. And then I took really light washes of brown acrylic paint on top until I got a weathered wooden look. And this took a couple layers, but eventually I got it to something that I thought looked decent. And for the bricks, I just dry brushed a very light gray on top. So I wanted the filigree to stand out, and I remember that I had a UV light and some chrome powders that I typically use for my nails. And what do you know, it makes it the perfect chrome finish on the metal details on this door. And this is how I did it. I took some clear gel top coat and I painted that on just the filigree, making sure not to get it on the wooden part of the door. And then I set it with the UV light, not for a full 60 seconds, maybe about 30 seconds. And I took my chrome powders and an eyeshadow sponge and burnished it on top of that filigree. And the chrome finish that it gives is so great. I think it's better than a lot of the gold paints on the market, and is super easy if any of you girlies have gel chrome powders at home that you can just use. And this is the finished door. And to attach it, it's very easy. We got a lot of foam pumpkins from the craft store. This one I found at the thrift store actually for $2. So you can save some money there. I took my door and a piece of paper, traced it on, cut it out so that it'd be easier to trace since it's an uneven surface. I just used a blade to cut it out and hot glued the door on top. To hide the edges, I put some of this moss and added cute little finishing touches like these acrylic butterflies. You can add really whatever you want to this to make it look a lot cuter or to fit the aesthetic of your home. But to keep it simple, this is what I made. This is such a fun project, super easy, and can be really cost effective if you use things around your house. It's such a fun activity to do with friends. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.